Intro to using the table saw. The table saw is a highly versatile and useful tool. It will enable you to cut wood and other materials safely, quickly, and with a high degree of precision. When you learn how to use a table saw safely and confidently, a new realm of possibilities will reveal itself to you. In this video, we will focus on the fundamental technique known as ripping a board. To rip means to cut in the direction that the grain of the tree grows in. You can literally rip a tree into boards, much like the way you split a piece of celery. This celery is very old, so it doesn't split that well, but you can see that it's splitting fairly easily along the grain of the celery. And the fibers in the celery help it hold its shape when you bend it going across the grain. Instead of literally ripping a board, you can also use a handsaw. People have been sawing boards for a long time. Sometimes it's nice to do things the old-timey way, and other times you just want to cut a really nice and straight piece of wood and get on with your project. So here I am holding a board that I'm about to cut. I've decided I want to cut a 6-inch piece. So I'm marking it up there. And now I am raising the blade of the table saw to about 1/4 of an inch above the height of my piece of wood. Now I'm going to bring the table saw sled over towards the blade so there's exactly 6 inches between the fence and the blade. Plugging things in. Safety is very important. Always good to have eye protection and ear protection. Alright, looks like things are good to go. Turning on saw. Now I'm placing the piece of wood firmly against the bed of the saw and the fence. I'm pushing the board against the fence with my left hand and pushing it forward with my right hand. And I'm very sure to follow through completely. And I just let that piece fall. Let's take a moment to reflect on the correct posture for safe table saw operation. When many people begin using the table saw, they instinctually want to stay as far away from the blade as possible. This is actually more dangerous because in this posture you're relying completely on your finger muscles, and the fingers are not strong enough to support that piece of wood if something goes wrong. A potter using the potter's wheel does not distance themselves from the spinning lump of clay. They know that they are strongest when their hands are supported by their arms and their arms are supported by the weight of their body. When I use the table saw, my left hand pushes the piece of wood towards the fence. My right hand pushes the piece of wood downwards and forwards, slowly past the blade. My body leans into my arms towards the fence. It's all about the fence. This technique helps me reduce the risk of experiencing the dreaded kickback, which happens when the piece of wood binds between the blade and the fence and gets thrown violently back towards you. The table saw is a lot like the ocean. It needs to be treated with respect, and you need to know your limits. All right, let's cut one more piece of wood here. So I've got a longer piece of wood that I am going to cut. So this is going to require that I cobble together a outfeed table. And this is a really hastily made situation here. This is too sketchy, so I've just replaced it with something slightly less sketchy. It's not quite high enough, so I'm scrounging around for some materials to raise it up a little bit. The idea is that when I cut this long board on the table saw, it's going to have nowhere to go, and it's just going to kind of fall onto the ground. And it's so long that it will be difficult to manage, and it will be awkward and potentially dangerous. So this is looking better. It's really not ideal at all, but it's okay. Now once again I'm measuring. I'm going to cut a 2-inch strip of this piece. So here we are. I'm about to turn on the saw. I've got all my safety gear on. And it's a little bit more difficult with a longer piece, but I'm using that left hand to press the board towards the fence. And then my right hand is guiding the board forward, staying nice and supported. And you see here that the space between the blade and the fence is only 2 inches. It's not safe enough for my hand. So I have this pushing tool that is kind of locking onto the piece of wood, and I'm using that to guide it through, and my hand is completely out of the way. Okay, turning off saw. Everything's good. So at this point, I recommend that you find a colleague that you trust and practice this method of ripping a board. Thanks for watching.